Hi everyone, Soul17 here, and let me first, as usual, this is not a paid video. Made the thumbnail, and I don't own the pictures. So yeah. Okay. So this is my second attempt at making this what if. Okay. So let me just say this real quick. I did not say this in the last video, but I forgot to say it. Basically, Hades Hades made it where 10 months would pass, well, where time will flow quicker in the underworld. So Zuko could basically get 10 months of training in real quick and get back up there into the mortal realm, or basically back to being alive. The living world, basically. Instead of being in the underworld. So, yeah, I forgot to mention that in the last video, because I realized they literally were training in fall at one point. So that means winter. That means I can have a Zuko be in the lightning thing during the 10 months of training. But I need to read the book, which I have it right next to my desk. Well, right next to basically where where I sleep. So I basically will read it, and then I can basically make my Naruto, Percy Jackson, what ifs. So then we can continue that. So then I can basically make another part where whatever happens in the Percy Jackson, book, Azuka can just pop in out of nowhere, or at a specific event, because it will make more sense. So, yeah. Anyways, enough of that. So, yeah. So basically, Izuku came around in the around the 4th month, during the 10 months of training for, which they had in the canon. So, we're gonna go to where, after the event where it's with Overhaul. So, yep. Anyways, let's get into this video. So this is basically part 2 of Deku as the Crow. So yeah. Anyways, so basically, after everything that happened in the first part, where Zuko killed Overhaul, took Eri in, and basically now, basically the police officer there, they raised search the place. Overhaul destroyed all his paperwork and research of his basically what he was going to do with Aries' blood. And I didn't realize Eri basically is very young. Not basically her canon age. But basically probably around like 4 or 5 years old, I believe. But if not, then if I'm wrong, because of season 4. So, I'm probably wrong. I probably think she's like maybe 6 years old. So, I'm just trying to figure that one out. But yeah. So, basically, they basically are going around searching up everything. Trying to find how many people are dead, how many people are alive. So, Sir Night-Eye, basically Endeavor and Eraserhead was called. Since Sir Night-Eye has been trying to, get any information on these people, to find out that they are dead all of a sudden is kind of a, basically a really hard pill to swallow, to basically hear that someone took them out. So, in a sense, we have them basically just coming to the crime scene. So, Sir Night-Eye asks, "Is this him?" As basically an officer goes like, "Yeah, it's Overhaul, or Chisaki." Which they reveal basically who it is. Which, and Razorhead be like, "So, was he push, or did he jump?" Which, Endeavor would be like, "It's kind of obvious," Eraserhead. Which the officer would be like, "Well, we had people checked around the area, they said he was on the roof. By the trajectory that they said, he was let go, actually. Somebody put him on the edge and just let him drop and fall." Which in Night Eye is basically like, who would do this, and why is his blood in the shape of a crow? Which some says we don't know, but Maria asked three people about it. And all they said is they don't remember who it was. All they know it was something non-human. Basically, Maria had someone sketch it. Well, sketch basically a picture of what they can remember, and well, it's a crow. That's all they can remember, seeing that. Which, when basically Eraserhead just looking at it, he's like, are you kidding me? Endeavor's quiet. He's remembering something what his mother told him once, and he basically slowly putting the pieces together, but he doesn't know yet. So, they basically, do check out the scene and such, and basically, Sir Naya's like, too many people have died today by this one person. Or, well, that's what I wouldn't say if I didn't know for sure it was just one person alone. And all we know is basically someone was here other than basically these Yakuza members due to basically the room with all the, stuffed animals and kid toys. Which Endeavor would be like, and it looked like it was basically a young girl. Which basically Aizawa would say, what do you think basically was happening here? And why did they need a kid here to begin with? Which Sir Naya would be like, I don't know. It seems like basically Overhaul is covered up his tracks. So, we would now go to where Zuko, because, well, Kozuku is, he's just basically sleeping on his couch with his crow and his dog, Snow, which he named his crow, basically, Char. Yeah, he named his crow Char. Which we have basically, basically I would say we would basically go to like the underworld where Hades is talking to Inko and Persephone. Persephone's go like, so we can all agree we should add Eri to the family, right? Which basically both of them nod. But Hades does bring up a good point. He goes like, so who would adopt her? Basically, Inko were like, well, I mean, I could adopt her, but I said I was leaving Japan. Basically, as Hades goes like, technically speaking, if me and Persephone could, but that would kind of raise suspicion because, well, some basically guys like to spread word about this to others. Which she basically thinks was like, what about Zuko? Which she thinks about like, Zuko could work, but we have to give him a new identity since, well, no one knows he's alive or dead. Which basically Inko would not. So, basically, Persephone was like, well, I do know a friend that basically could help us. Which, basically, well, Hades and Inko look at her, but like, but it's gonna take some time. Which Hades was just sigh. Which he goes, alright. Basically, we also would know, well, basically, Persephone also had, we also need to know if Eri will like to basically even be part of our family. Which, again, Hades will nod. Wait, give me a minute, everyone. Alright, sorry. So, anyways, like I was saying, so Hades decided on one thing. He was like, well, Izuku is gonna need some help, so basically, he looked at Persephone and Inko, and was like, I think we should all have a family outing. Which, Persephone was like, really? You would like to go up into, well, the mortal world? He goes, well, I am not particularly fond of it, but it would be nice to basically see our future granddaughter, or, well, daughter, depending. Which, basically, Inko would nod. So, in a sense, when Izuku basically will wake up, he smells, basically, something cooking. He's basically like, huh? he basically, sniffs the air and such, and he goes like, wait, someone in my house? Before he even gets up, he basically hears his father like, morning, Izuku. He's like, father? Or dad, I mean. He's like, yes, Persephone's in the kitchen along with your mother, but she's about to wake up Eri. Which she's like, so mom, huh. Which basically Zuko's like, I think I should go wake up Eri. Which basically Inko's like, yeah, you should. She'll probably freak out about it. My bad. He's like, no, mom's fine. So Zuko gets up and goes over, to Eri's room, and they're like, Eri, breakfast is almost ready. Come on, get up. She's like, okay, mister. He goes, Midoriya. Mr. Midoriya. Basically, Izuku basically picks up and carries her into the kitchen, and immediately she would notice new people in the house. Well, apartment, not house. But she's like, who are these people? And Izuku was like, well, these are my family. That's my dad. That's my mom, which he was pointing to Hades when he said dad. He points to his mom, basically his, Inko, and then that's my mother, Persephone. Just basically Persephone just says, you can just call me, Per for now. It's like, alright, Mrs. Per. Basically, she just giggles at, Aries' cuteness. And Inko would be like, Izuku, I'm making your favorite. He was like, huh? Basically, she says, Katsudon. But she's like, okay. Basically he's trying not to, disappear into a chair right away because he's holding Eri. So, basically, he's would wait after he puts Eri in her seat. And, when they all are sitting down, they basically say thank you for the meal, which Eri mimics Izuku, and, when they start eating. So, while Izuku basically is eating, he was, for a few minutes, he basically will, stop and ask, so, not that I don't want you guys here or anything, just, curious. Which, basically, he's like, well, I thought we could all have a family outing. I don't have much paperwork due to your, advice, so I thought it'd be nice to have Persephone, me, and your mother out with you and Eri. Which he's like, huh, alright. We need to wear her clothing and such, and which Inko says, well, person from the front desk basically was gonna drop off clothing for Eri. They didn't know what size basically Eri was, so basically here. Which Izuku was like, alright, thanks. I'll thank them when we leave. So yeah, so they finish up breakfast and then they go out. Eri finds basically 2 out of 5 clothing that fits her. And then after that, they basically go and decide to basically buy some stuff for Izuku and for Eri. And basically does some decorations around the house. Well, around the apartment, I mean. So yeah. So, in a sense, that took quite a bit, which they had a good time. Nothing really interesting happened, but Zuko knows basically an energy signature from a god. Well, more like a demigod, but it was very weak. Basically, he had Char basically to search the area, which he basically only senses one demigod power, another weaker demigod power, but still somewhat of a demigod. He goes, huh. Basically, almost fully mortal with just a limited demigod power, and and a demigod, he would say to himself, which Hades like, really, Izuku? He's like, yeah. Char basically was able to fly around and see. One of them has basically white hair, white hair and basically red in it, and the other one has fully white hair. There must be signs of quirks, but I don't know who they are. Now they basically taught them to get to know, but I'm not leaving Eri basically alone with you guys. Or I'm not leaving you guys alone at all. No offense, I don't want my mom to run basically to Aunt Mitsuki or him. Which basically Hades was not understanding. He goes, Izuku, I'm not saying basically you should forgive the boy, but it's good to let go of the past. After all, you are now, well, the most basically different person than anything else in this world. Something so different they would call you abomination of nature. Which Izuku was slightly chuckle at that. He was like, to be fair, if there was basically any exorcists out here in this world, they will try to basically kill me just for being probably something that they would say about, their belief that I am nothing more than a demon sent basically from the underworld. Which Hades would just laugh at that. And I mean, this is like a good laugh. Which Izuku smiles. He's like, what I heard basically from Persephone, or, Mother, anytime she's gone, you're always basically back to your old self. Gloomy, basically, menacing, and grumpy, as she would say. Which basically, he would not. Izuku, I mean. Which Hades would just kind of laugh at that. It was, your mother does bring out the best in me, and along with your mom, Izuku, she's helped me and Persephone to basically get back to our old self. And she's basically become a part of it. Which Izuku would just smile at that. He goes, I'm your, basically, son. May not be your only kid, but, hey. I'm currently here. Which he would nod. He goes, I think that's enough shopping, though, basically, they have done for Eri and you. He goes, yeah, we should get back home. I'm gonna have to be going out tonight. Hey, do you mind if you, mom, or mother, basically, mind watching every time I go out? Which he would just smile at that. He was like, not at all. I really will love to basically to watch over the little one. So yeah, so basically they go and bring basically their stuff back, which some of the stuff is going to be coming in, which it didn't really take that long due to, basically Hades ordering it basically to be delivered as soon as possible. Today, even. So, basically, since, Izuku technically is going to be living in this apartment safe house type area, it is, basically always going to be able to travel with him, all this stuff. So it doesn't really have to matter where he goes. Convenience sake, magic. So, as basically after that, Izuku spent time with Eri, as basically their, bond gets closer, along with new bond of basically Inko, Persephone, and Hades for, Eri happening. And they've been trying to get Eri to smile, which, it's slowly happening, but not as quickly as what they want, but still, it's happening. So, Izuku basically would get this feeling, something weird is happening, which Hades notices, and he basically says, roof. It's almost night, which he nods. So Izuku gets on his basically outfit, and basically gets his jacket that has his weapons in it. His sword's by his side along with his pistols, and basically his other weapons. So, everybody like, basically, wait, where you going, Mr. Midoriya? He goes, I have to do my job. So basically the one I basically did to save you. She goes, really? He goes, yeah. So, basically, you stay here basically with my mom, both my moms and dad. Which she goes, alright, just be back. He goes, right. Basically, Inko was like, Izuku, be safe, don't get hurt. He was like, I won't, Mom. Basically, Persephone, he goes like, remember your lessons with your teachers. He goes, Yeah, and Leonidas always says, never rush into battle without a good plan. And if you don't have a good plan, well, make sure you're on the winning side. Or, well, you make your winning side. Which Persephone goes like, he never said that. He's like, uh, okay, maybe he didn't, but that's what I would say. And he just goes up, face to the fire escape, which Hades just says, well, to be fair, it's kind of similar to what Leonidas would say. She goes, close enough, I guess. So, yeah. When Izuku gets onto his roof, he was like, okay, whoever you are, I know you're here. The scent of death basically coming off of you is very strong. So you must be a god of death, goddess or god, or someone who just basically likes to kill a lot of people. Which, basically here is a eerie chuckle, like, I shouldn't have ever, well, I should expect no less from the son of Hades, even if he is adopted. When Izuku turns around, he basically sees this pale person with horns, with basically this torn robe, but covered in basically a little bit of blood, and it's white and holes in it. And he also has prayer beads in his hand along with a knife, which basically he even sees his basically cold, basically yellow eyes, and notice the white hair. He goes, the Shimigami. He goes, yes. At least you basically done your basically research. I have a basically special message from Lady Amaterasu. Basically, he hands basically the letter, scroll. Goes, it's also a request by Raiden in there. Raiden or Raijin? Raijin? Too many names to remember. Sorry. It's Raijin. I'm just gonna double check that. Oh. Raijin. Basically, when he became an old man with a straw hat, it was Raiden. So you're basically right in either way. He was like, thanks. He basically takes the scroll and basically was like, so. I mean, what's the special occasion? Basically, a goddess and a god asked me to do something basically for them. He goes, basically, the Shimigami goes, everything will be explained. So, when he basically opens up the letter, it's basically Raijin asking him to help his grandson out. He has word that basically Onis are basically going to attack him. And, he basically is hanging off his friends. The fact is, though, he has to basically guard his, grandson's basically parents home. And basically to get basically his friend's parents. Since these Onis are looking out for blood due to, a mishap by his account. Which, he's like, okay, so that's Raiju's, basically. Right, no, that's Raijin. Raiju's a dog. Raijin's, basically, request. And then he looks at Amaterasu's request and to help out, basically, Orochi. Yamato no Orochi, basically, due to some things that are basically happening, Orochi will need basically Izuku's assistance. Which he's like, isn't basically Yamato no Orochi basically some type of evil yokai or basically creature that is, basically eat a sacrifice of a woman basically once a year or something? Which basically the Shimigami would not, but due to the enemy monsters that basically came into Japan one time and caused a lot of destruction, basically Orochi decided to take upon itself to basically become a guardian of the lands, which was the best thing for it, since it's basically a very powerful monster. I see, so basically it's for loyalty to to basically Lady Amaterasu then. Which the Shimigami not. He was like, alright, how do I find basically Raiden's grandson. Basically, he hands him a bolt. It was this metal bolt. Well, this metal in the shape of a bolt has Raiden's basically energy in it. You'll be able to find it very quickly, due to the only sense basically his demigod blood within his veins. He goes, thanks. So when Izuku takes it, basically he just jumps to the other side of a roof, since it would be better off if he's, well, in human form. As the Shinigami basically looks behind after Izuku leaves, since it's right at nighttime, Izuku is basically in his crow form, well, turns into the crow, he sees Hades. He goes, I did not expect basically other gods to ask for my son's assistance. Is there any rewards for him? Which basically the Shinigami would not. He was like, we are not a fool to not give him a reward for assisting us in this time of need. I myself will give him a reward, so this will also help him in the long run. Which he would basically, raise up an eyebrow. He was like, my second fastest horse. Which that would kind of shock basically Hades, but he goes, I see. We know of this. The crow only appears when in the time of need. So we must help him out as much as possible. That is what we, at the Japanese Pantheon, have understand. Which basically Hades from Nai was like, I'm surprised basically you all found out about him so quickly. Which he would just chuckle. Basically, he was like, well, you did ask about, his safety here in this, basically, apartment area. Violating Materasu. So it was only natural everyone would know about it. Well, at least in the Japanese Pantheon, for now at least. Which he would nod. He goes, I thank you, Shimigami. He goes, do not worry about it. After all, I have a feeling me and that kid, along with basically everyone else in the Japanese Pantheon, will get along quite nicely. As the Shimigami leaves, as Hades just smirk, he goes, my son, you have making allies without even knowing. Let's see your future fully together. So, as Hades would go back into basically, see Inko and Persephone basically watching TV with Eri. As then he goes and joins them. So, Izuku is traveling around. He basically, asking Char if basically can sense anything. Which Char be like, somewhat. But what about basically magnet, well, not magnet, but compass basically Shimigami gave you, which Izuku basically is looking at it and he goes, and basically it's blinking. He was like, well, sending a pulse basically of power through it. So it's kind of basically already getting close. So after basically another 10 minutes running and jumping, it starts to basically get even brighter. He was like, well, we're close. So, which basically Charm was like, got it. Basically, Izuku jumps and basically turns to a crow and keeps it in his basically, talons, as he basically flies basically faster. Well, he flies basically going faster and such. And when it starts blinking, he knows, and he can sense basically a demigod nearby underneath him. So he flies up, and then when he basically turns around the dive bomb, he sees these weird basically creatures. Basically, what Oni will look like. Horn, basically messed up face, big, strong, muscular, ugly, sharp teeth. So, basically, while Denki, yeah, you kind of get it. Denki, it's the only one I could think of that would have been. I couldn't keep it a secret. I was going to reveal it, but sorry. Slip of the tongue. But yeah, so, as basically, Denki's basically, trying to keep these, well, what basically he sees as Onis, but what his friend sees as, thugs, away from them. he's thinking, damn, I can't reveal my power yet. I mean, I have to be knocked out. My grandfather and father told me not many mortals are supposed to know about us. But before anything can happen, Doni basically, pulls out, well, not pulls out, but has this basically dagger, up in the air. He's like, says, you're not going to come with us. We're just going to take you back after we cut you up a bit. So, Denki is about to say, says to himself, sorry, father. Sorry, grandpa. Looks like I'm going to have to basically show my demigod powers to my friends. You were right, I should have told them before. Before anything else could happen, all of a sudden, they hear basically the sound of a quick sheath, as both of the heads of these two Onis fall to the ground, as this shocks basically Denki and his two friends, as basically the rest of the Onis who came with, about maybe like 6, basically see someone who landed right between the two bodies, is now standing up and look back to them. And they're like, it can't be. Which Izuku smirks, they're like, oh, you know about me? He's like, you're the crow! You weren't supposed to be around for any more! Which Izuku's like, well, I'm around. So, come on, uglies, let's dance. So, yeah, basically the Onis try to basically run at Izuku. Them kind of revealing who they truly are now, which basically these two friends of Denki's are like, what the hell? What's going on? Which Denki's like, Kirishima, Zero, don't worry about it. These are just quirks. Which basically Zuko jumps over one of them, kicks him in the head, basically slices off the guy's arm, and then basically, puts one of his daggers into the head of the Oni as, he falls out dead. As Izuku basically, turns to him and is like, hey, you gonna basically stand there and tell them that they have quirks when you know basically really well what they are? Just tell them already. Jeez, don't hide the truth. He dodges a basically swing of a club, basically does a backflip, hitting basically the Oni in the jaw, making him break one of his basically teeth that are long on this one, as he grabbed it midway and stabbed it into the Oni's head, killing it. As basically he jumps back and basically runs out basically a pistol with a silencer on it, and shoot the Oni in the chest, which it just start laughing, but it then coughs out blood. And be like, what? Bullets don't work. And then it basically falls down until Zuko runs up, basically grabbing it, jumping over his head and stabbing it right in the basically, its second heart, which basically Kirishima's like, wait, what are these? And how do you know of them? And why is that guy telling you to tell us? Which Denki, now Sarah says, come on, Denki, we're your friends, right? Which he sighs, like, fine. Look, these are Onis, demons in the Japanese pantheon. Which, yes, the gods exist. And I'm technically a demigod, but not really. Which, like, wait, what do you mean? He was, my dad's a demigod, my mom's a human. So, I'm technically more human than demigod, but to keep the bloodline going, my grandfather put more of his godly essence into me, and not making me his son, just basically since we have the same blood, just made basically working more of my basically demigod power to make me half human, half demigod. And the fact is, my quirk does give me the side effect to make me basically fry my brain cells and make me go dumb mode, but the fact is, if I basically use my demigod blood, or my powers for it, I can basically negate that basically side effect. Which basically Sarah goes like, why you didn't tell us? Meanwhile, while Zuko's basically just fighting the background here and all this, he's like thinking, they're just gonna know what I'm doing? Freak it. Oh, fuck it, basically. So yeah. So Izuku basically, starts, just finished off the Onis, as basically like, look guys, I'm sorry I didn't tell you, I basically Kirishima instead of punch him in the face, he goes, ow, what the heck guys? Which they basically say, if you're gonna say you're just trying to protect us, then don't, we're your friends. We don't care if basically you're some type of demigod or wanna be demigod or something. We'd rather know the truth than basically wake up one day and hear that you're missing. We'll go out looking for you and we wanna end up dead anyways. Which Tenki just looks down and is like, you're right. I really am an idiot. Which basically Kim goes like, no, you're not an idiot. You're just basically a person who just cares about his friends too much. I think of their safety basically without thinking of being farther ahead. Which, well, Sarah holds out his hand and goes like, Kirishima's right. Come on. Basically, Denki grabs his hand and be like, you're right, sorry. So, after basically Denki gets up, Izuku will like, well, that's a nice, lovely, friendly chat and basically, show of friendship. We gotta get going. Which Denki was like, who are you anyways? When he turns around, he sees all the Onis dead. And basically, the spoils of war are there, which Izuku picks them up. Basically, it's Oni horns and basically teeth. And basically anything else, like bones. Which he was like, simple. He throws him basically the scroll, only to read basically what your grandfather asked. Which, when he reads it, he's shocked, and then he just nods. So he goes like, Kirishima, Sarah, we have to go back to my home. My grandfather will be waiting for us. It's like, they're like, okay, so Izuku, Kirishima, Sero, and Denki travel. Basically, no one's really noticing them, which they're like, what's going on? He's like, which Denki goes, the mist is protecting us. Which he goes, yeah, something that basically most of the Greek people use. But basically, the Japanese pantheon also basically have a concept of the exact same thing of it. Which, basically, so, what are you? He goes, me? Yeah, what, are you a demigod? He was like, yeah, in a literal sense. Which then goes, who's your godly parent? He goes, Hades. Which, basically, Denki stops. He was like, wait, you mean one of the big three? He goes, yeah, don't say anything else to anyone, alright? Just, dude, you're basically, I heard about the prophecy, or basically the vow. He goes, oh, my dad didn't break it. It's more on the lines that I'm adopted into the family. He was like, oh, but still. It was, yeah, we don't want basically the big guy, basically the Green Pantheon, try to cause problems here. Since I ain't in his territory. He was like, true. So Kirishima was like, you do this often? He was like, just started yesterday night. Which Sarah was like, wait, you're what that guy did to that Yakuza guy? He was like, yeah. Which then he was like, so you're a vigilante or villain? He goes, vigilante is the term I would be using since I basically help the spirits that don't move on because their loved ones were killed. Which Kirishima's like, what do you mean loved ones were killed? You know, boyfriends basically dying before, but also seeing their girlfriend getting assaulted or something. Killed, murdered, that usual stuff. Or basically parents basically found out that the kid is dead, basically, due to something else, and they died with regrets while the murderer was still out there. That stuff. Which, basically, thing is like, that kind of sounds like a legend I heard from, basically, the gods know about, tell the story about the crow, huh? Which they're like, yeah. Well, they literally say you were the crow, but I didn't literally think literally. You're a living legend. He goes, no, I'm not. The crow basically is a title. Nothing more, nothing less. A legend is basically to the people who had the title. Each generation. Their names are engraved in basically the Hall of Hades. The ones who basically made a difference, or basically got the peace by, saving the world or such, or basically avenging the people, or saving the lives of someone else. That's what my father basically said what it was about. which very few basically are on there. Which basically, Denki's like, well, Kirishima's like, that's kind of manly. And Sarah's like, crap, man. So what's it like? He was like, well, I'm partially dead and undead exactly at the same time, so, you know, kind of sucks. Which are like, wait, well, he was like, yeah, the crow has to be basically dead and gets revived. So I'm a living, walking corpse. Which I think all three of them stopped and just look at him. He turned around and was like, what? It's like, and you, just, they have no words, they just follow him. So then he's like, we're getting close to my house, by the way. He was like, yeah, I can tell. Charter up there has been basically following the signature basically of Raiden. Or, well, in its human form, he called Raiden, or Raijin. Which, basically, Kirishima was like, wait, like Raijin, like out of thunder and storms? Which he was, yeah, and we're about to be ambushed. So, Izuku basically takes out basically his pistols. He's like, I am not dealing with these freakers. Which, all of a sudden, multiple Onis start to appearing. Which are like, we're not gonna let you pass and get to him. Who knew our boys could be defeated by such... Oh, that's the reason why. The crow. Which goes, yeah. And you ugly basically Onis are really driving me basically crazy already. I mean, we're almost there at the checkpoint, and I got another job I gotta do. Took me a long time just to find this guy. So, kind of want to get my day over with. Which, basically, the leader chuckles like, oh, or not. As before they can say anything, they hear a howl. Basically, right, basically, a wolf appears. But it was basically, like, has lightning going around it. Which Denki's like, wait, Raiju! As basically, the Oni's basically seeing it, it's like, no, why did that thing have to appear? As Raiju jumps down with a growl as it starts to basically just, kill basically Onis. Zuko basically starts to waste them by shooting, them all in the head, and also have to reload basically his gun, which one of them tried to basically throw a spear at, which Izuku basically dodged. Well, basically just moved his head to the side, but also kicked it. Well, yeah, dodged or jumped and kicked it out of the way, so it went hit Kirishima, and basically trying to keep it away from civilians, so he kicked it downward and he landed on it, reloaded his guns and started shooting basically at them. Which with Raiju, basically, it's actually way more easier getting this done because there are about like good 50 of them. So after a few minutes of that happening, because Raiju, he's made of lightning demon, basically, Zuko picks up his basically spoils of war while Raiju, destroys. Well, not destroys, but picks up, his and basically gives it to Izuku, which is yes, you sure? Which in basically Raiju nods. So, with Izuku, with Raiju, Denki, Kirishima, and Zero, they basically get to his house, which Denki, looks at Kirishima, Kirishima's like, that's Raiju. It's, Raiju's so awesome. Which, Zero's like, yeah. So, man, this has already almost been an hour, which I need to technically sleep. Sheesh. Anyways, it looks like I don't get this part done. Okay, so basically when they, like I said, when they arrive, Deku sees an old man with a straw hat and basically white robes on. Which when, they get to the house and such, basically the old man's there and basically says, ah, Crow, you're here. He goes, Denki Kaminari, basically Enjiro, Kirishima, and Sero. I forgot his last name. Which I was like, hey, he's like, sorry, I just met you guys. And besides, it also said basically, your name's in the basically the letter too. That's all. Which, Sarah was like, fair. So, basically he, Raijin nods. Well, not Raijin, Raiju nods. No, I was right, Raijin nods, basically. says, "Thank you. Now, Sero, Kirishima, their family's already inside. I have multiple, basically, my warriors out here, basically, to defend everyone here." Which Izuku will be like, "Well, since I'm done, I need to get going basically to my next assignment." Which the Shinigami will appear and be like, "Here's a little token for my appreciation." Which basically is a whistle. Well, not really a whistle, more like basically a call. It's like an automatic caller, which basically the Shinigami will nod. This will summon out my second fastest horse. It's the least I can do. Besides, you won't have enough time before the sun rises. Which Izuku will like, yeah, we'll have a couple of hours. It's already basically midnight. Which, yeah, the Shinigami nods and leaves. Which Raijin basically looks at him and nods. Basically, he goes, "Well, Crow, as a token of my appreciation, I'll give you basically two things. One, a blessing." Basically, Zuko would just blink. He's like, "Wait, what?" He goes, "This blessing will allow you to use thunder and not be affected by it." Which he's like, "You're serious?" He was like, "Yes." Basically, you even will be able to use the water to your advantage by having basically somewhat control over it. Not much, just somewhat. Basically making a storm appear out of nowhere, and basically you can control the water of it. Which was like, "Small storm, right?" He goes, "Yes." So, as Raijin basically gives Izuku his blessing, he says, "Now then, also, the ability to use the lightning. As I said, it's part of the blessing. But this ability is basically to help control that lightning by also giving you a short, basically burst teleportation of it." Which is like, I thank you." As basically he bows to Raijin. He goes, "Not at all. You protected my family and his friends. And basically, make sure they got here safely." So, he basically gives Izuku the power now. So Izuku will nod and basically call upon basically the horse, which it would just appear basically like from a fog. Which the horse would be pale white, well, palish gray with flames, from its hair that are basically green, and basically black, basically flames around its basically feet. I need to get a drink. Alright, so as Zuko sees the horse, he's like, "Huh, never been horseback riding before. I'll learn on the way, basically," he says. So before, basically, Zuko gets on the horse, Raijin says, "Crow, may I ask you a question?" He was like, which Zuko's like, "Yeah, what is it?" He goes, "The Onis. You got the spoils of war, right?" He goes, "Yeah, got them right here." Basically shows a bag, which, if you guys are wondering where'd he get the bag, well, his jacket. You really think his jacket has like a lot of things, like a lot of pockets. Of course, there's gonna be basically an area for basically his spoils of war to carry. The jacket was specially made for him. So basically, he would take the bag out where basically it has, it grows. It basically can hold anything. Well, the spoils of war does not matter which it is. He goes, "May I see them?" So Zuko basically not dumps, but takes out most of basically what's in there. He was like, "And that's not all of them." Which Raijin or Raiden would look at them. He was like, "These can be made into fine weapons. Do you mind if I take them? I'll also basically need to ask your father to send over basically some hellhound basically fur, along with basically any monster you would kill. Harpies would be specifically good. What I'm having in mind." He goes, "Really?" He was like, "Yes. I basically know someone that would be love to help you. It's a basically blacksmith for us." He goes, "Is it Muramasa?" She just starts laughing. He was like, Yes, Muramasa is a samurai. Well, basically, he's a katana maker. Well, let's see, he is a blacksmith, nevertheless. He would, most likely would love to make basically a weapon for you. Which is like, nice. Well, I'll basically leave you got this materials then. The rest I'm keeping for something else. You never know what you're gonna need. Yes. Which Raijin will understand. Yes, you must make haste. Time is of the essence, which he would nod. So, before basically Zuko would again get on the horse, Denki, Sero, and Kirishima asked for Zuko if they can ever hang out. Which he was like, you guys would want to hang out with me? Which Denki was like, yeah, he seemed pretty cool. Which Sero would agree, and Kirishima was like, yeah, you're manly. Besides, I mean, we know he's a crow, and you're basically the adopted son of Hades. We don't know who you truly are. So, we wanted to get to know you. Which Zuko was just chuckling like, thanks. Here. Basically gives them basically a number. He's like, this is basically my phone number. I don't usually keep it on me during basically my hours, but I will have it on me. Well, I just gotta activate it today. So, you guys will be my first, people to give my numbers to. Which Denki, Kirishima, and basically, Sarah would give their numbers to Izuku. He was like, thanks. He puts in a pocket that would keep it, safe from anything. And then he gets on the horse and he was like, so, do you have a name? Which, basically, it would not know. It was like, okay, understand me. I think I'll name you. How about Roach? Which, basically the horse will just basically nod yes. Which, basically everyone just looks at him with, like, really face. He was like, what? Whatever, no time. So basically Zuko rides off. Basically, Raijin says, Denki, my grandson. He goes, yes, grandfather? He goes, thank you for basically trying to make an ally with him. Or, should I say, just a friendship with him. The path he's walking will be a long and treacherous road. He'll be alone for a very long time, I believe. Which, basically, Denki just kind of looking basically where Zuko went. He goes like, I got the exact same feeling too. So, he goes, I'm proud of you. And I'm also proud of your friends for not abandoning you. Which Raijin will basically not nod, but bow to him and goes like, thank you for being my grandson's friends. Which Dave will say, it's no problem, really. Basically, Sarah will say that, which Kirishima was like, yeah, Denki's a really good friend to us. We're not going to just abandon him just because of whatever he is. Which, they see Raijin actually smiling. He goes like, now then, let us start your training. After all, if you're going to be my grandson's friends, you're going to need to protect yourself from, basically, the monsters alike and the villains. The training will be not easy for any of you. Especially you, my grandson. We will try to surpass that, basically, quirk limit of yours. Which, basically, they just nod to that. So, you go to Izuku. He's basically, asked basically Char about how does basically Roach know where to go, which basically Char says, must have been Shimigami already tell him basically Roach where to go and such. So, an hour passed. Well, an hour and 30 minutes passed. Izuku basically, said it was the second fastest horse. Basically, he wasn't wrong, the Shimigami. This was basically on the same speed as a bullet train. So, basically, though, when Izuku basically gets off the horse, it's in front of an eerie forest. The scent of basically blood and death was in the air. A thickly, basically, smell to it. Which is like, sounds like someone basically, a lot of death has happened in these woods. Which, basically, Charles, I agree. Basically, Izuku was basically telling Roach to go back. Which Roach would disappear, so. And such, Izuku basically goes for the forest. He basically only takes about, nearly an hour, basically 55 minutes, until he hears the sound of basically training. Which he just hears someone saying, good job, men! basically, shoot those arrows, basically, good job, man, and you, keep shooting those arrows, and you, basically, put left foot basically backwards, and basically, keep more of your weight in your right. Which was like, what the? So, Izuku basically follows the sound, and he just hears the sound of basically, men basically yelling, yeah, basically, blocking attacks, grunting, and basically he gets into this clearing or area where there's not really trees or anything, and he sees all these spirits, soldiers from basically the samurai age, which Izuku's like, what's going on here? As one of the men, basically, who was resting for a bit, looks and sees Izuku, as he basically gets up immediately and holds his spear and basically points to Izuku, who's like, who are you? Identify yourself! Which Izuku basically gets, into a fight stance until someone says, oh, basically, stand down, soldier! Basically, which the soldier would, as it's basically the trainer. He's like, you must be the crow. He's like, yeah. Who are you? It's like, we are soldiers of Nobunaga. Hold up, I want to make sure that's actually a real name. I'm 100% sure, but there's that, basically, doubt. So give me a minute. Okay, as I was saying about basically Nobunaga, which Izuku's like, wait, what? Which basically, the soldier's like, yes, Lord Nobunaga has been waiting for you. Come. As basically he just grabs Izuku's arm and basically dragging him. Which Izuku's like, wait, did Nobunaga die? Basically by, assassination or something? Old age? Which basically was like, that's what the history books say. I bet. Okay, by the way, I just wanted to let you guys know this. I'm kind of combining Nobunaga from what I know, and basically also a Neo. Well, the Neo look. But I'm also putting my own little spin to it, so basically, yeah. I'm kind of wanting to put a spin for this stage, because I'm ready to put basically Yamato no Orochi. Basically, it was evil, now it's basically protecting, which, some basically the exact same thing for Nobunaga. Which, it's hard to do research when which are really bad at research. So, of course, I'm going to try and make this basically for the story interesting, or what I know, which is very little. Basically, besides from video games. Alright, okay, just want to point that out real quick, so yeah. So, when Izuku is brought to Nobunaga, he did see a lot of soldiers there and such, and he sees both Nobunaga talking to this beautiful woman, which basically are talking about plans and strategies for basically the Coven problem, which basically a soldier says, Lord Nobunaga, Lord Orochi, well, Lady Orochi, which basically, look, he says, the crow has arrived, which he basically steps to his side and it's Izuku. Basically, Yamato no Orochi would say, well, I thought the crow would be a little bit older, but you are basically indeed his kid, so I'm not going to judge. Which Izuku basically look at this woman's black-haired, basically green eyes, basically, smooth skin, basically wearing a kimono with flowered, basically, big, cherry blossoms on it, and with a black, black kimono with cherry blossoms on it and such. Basically, which basically he sees, basically, if you want to know what Nobunaga looks like, look it up. Which, basically, he looked different from, basically, the books. He goes, of course I do. Basically, I know I'm a great unifier in them. He goes, yeah. But, basically, the unification of what I did helped out, basically, in the period where I basically was a part of. There was another, basically, behind-the-scenes war that I nearly died in, or should I say, I did die, but I was refusing to not. Which was, so that means I walked the land until I came to these forests and died in battle with Orochi. Which Orochi was like, yes, enough of basically telling the boy of our story, Nobunaga. we have a problem, and he must know of it. Which he nods. He goes, so Zuko comes up to the base of the table and goes like, so what's our problem? Well, as basically Roshi says, we got a lot of basically harpies coming along here. Plus, we got the Hydra. Which Zuko's like, wait, the Hydra's coming here? He goes, exactly. I could take it alone, but with the numbers advantage that it has against my heads, even with all my elements that I can use, it's difficult. The Hydra's poison along my poison are, well, different, so its poison be able to even kill gods. Well, at least, or harm them. While mine basically is very, very corrosive, like it can basically, like the Hydras. I do not know if basically, well, if it truly can harm a god. I haven't tested it out in so long I forgot. Which, basically, Nobunaga would say, and we don't basically have the time for basically us to wait for, well, anyone else. So, there's too many things happening basically in Japan that the other basically gods and lesser gods are dealing with at the moment. Basically Zuko's like, wait, really? He goes, yes, we'll explain that later. Which Zuko would not. He was like, so, what do you want me to do? Basically Roach says, try to take out the Hydra. Without basically the Hydra, the Harpies will leave. It's strange. I send out basically some scouts, which I created from basically my power, which I was given by Lady Amaterasu. And they were basically, what they saw is the Hydra was acting different. It was like it was being drawn here. And I don't think it's because of you, adopted child of Hades. Which basically he would not solve. He was like, if you can take it on yourself, at least with these soldiers, then why you need me? Which Nobunaga was saying, there's basically a village of basically kitsunes here. And yes, they are basically nearby. Orochi made her basically base here because of these, kitsunes. They did not mind having basically the, Yamato and Orochi around. Which, basically, Zuko would not swallow it to that. Because I'm very fond of this village. So I'm having most of the soldiers there to be able to protect them. It's the least I can do after everything they've been willing to do for me over the years. Which, Zuko would just kind of smile at that and nod. He's like, alright, I'll try anything I can do. Maybe I can basically summon something from the underworld to give us a, advantage. Which, basically, Nobunaga saying any help we can get will be good. But can you do it? Chara obviously tells Zuko, basically, Zuko, you have to be careful. You may be strong now, but there's not much, basically, you can do. Your godly power, basically, is not that great yet. And you only had 10 months to at least get used to it. And basically, at least control a few skeletons. Which he was like, I know. I gotta try, Char. So, Zuko was like, I'm gonna go outside and basically try to basically bring out whatever I can. It may just be skeletons, swords, or archers. They'll have whatever I need them to have, which Orochi would nod. So Zuko would go out, and he will basically start to concentrate. He lets his godly essence, godly power flow through him. The scent of death basically permeate through the woods. Already got a little bit stronger, a little bit thicker. The soldiers who are training basically sense it, and you look, and this black basically haze is coming over Zuko. As basically, Char can see, while basically Char's on a branch, Zuko is having a bead of sweat going down his face. As he goes, come on, you can do this. As he's holding out his hand, and it was any creature that I need. Something that can help me from the depths of the underworld. Please, come to me. I, the adopted son of Hades, summon thee. So, basically, what will be summoned with Shock Char? This would take a lot of power from Izuku, but, well, it basically probably, good enough, basically, to help. But this has a consequence of also draining a lot of his stamina. So, what comes out, basically, from the ground is a chimera. Which Suzuki's like, I summoned a chimera? Which, basically, the chimera sees Izuku, and it will bow to it. It's like, Lord Izuku. Well, and she was like, talking chimera. He was summoned me. And also craved me at exactly the same time. He goes, wait, how does that even work? He goes, well, it's hard to explain, but I had no basically mind of my own besides my instincts to hunt and kill demigods of the great pantheon or anyone. But when you summoned me and I heard your call, though, it basically gave me a will and a mind of my own. So I basically am by your side. As your basically very first summon of a basically underworld basically creature, I will basically come to your aid whenever you need me. As a sign of my respect for you. For I sense you were basically using almost all of your power and stamina just to summon me. Which Izuku was just chuckle like, thank you. He goes, what is it that you need me for? Well, need me for? He always explained the situation. He was like, the Hydra, a difficult opponent, and the heartbeats, vast maybe in number, so it was a good thing you have summoned me. I can take care of them from the skies, or basically distract the Hydra. We are lucky we do not have sirens on their side. Mizuku was like, yeah, I know. So, as Orochi and Nobunaga come out, they see basically the Chimera, which basically Orochi basically, claps, like, excellent. Nevertheless, basically from the son of Hades, even though you are adopted, you are proven to be a valuable, basically, champion of his, too. Which Izuku just chuckles and goes, thanks. How long do we have? An hour at best. We are lucky they are coming before the sun rises. With that, when the sun basically rises, you'll be just a normal demigod. Your supernatural abilities and reflexes will be gone. Which Izuku would nod to that. So, they get everything set up. The soldiers who are going to go to basically the village to protect it, go. Izuku and basically the rest of the soldiers go along with the Chimera, go to the shore, which basically Izuku basically can already tell by the scent of, even though it's the sea, something's up. Which Izuku like, shouldn't basically my uncle basically be, trying to prevent it from happening? Which basically Nobunaga was like, yes, the god of the sea should be basically trying to stop it, but he has no claims over these waters of Japan. Those basically, well, at least to a certain degree. Besides, I sense a shroud over basically these creatures are basically so they will not be seen by any god. Which Izuku would nod. He was like, I see. So, in a sense, when basically everything's coming to view, there are basically hundreds of basically, harpies. And one big giant, basically, Hydra. Which, basically, Izuku was like, well, this thing can be easy, but no one said this ever was going to be easy, huh? Which, basically, Nobunaga was like, I like your spirit, boy. If we survive this, or if you survive this, I would like to give you a gift, along with Lady Orochi. Which Izuku would basically, be honored to get one from such a warrior such as yourself, Lord Nobunaga. Especially, a great legend, a great, basically, history person in our, basically, in Japan's history. Well, wait, let me rephrase that. It would be an honor from a great warrior like you, and from a great person such as yourself in, basically, in Japanese history, Lord Nobunaga, which goes, thank you. So, basically, the harpies are flying towards them. Basically, the archers are shooting them down. Basically, the Hydra is moving quicker. Well, basically getting quicker because and knows of battle and sudden, smell blood. So, the Hydra gets in range of the archers. The arrows are basically doing some damage, but not much. Izuku basically can tell the sunrise is coming up, which even Char says, we don't have much time. Maybe basically an hour or so. He goes, yeah, the Hydra's a difficult opponent. So, as basically Izuku takes out his katana, he goes like, we have to end this quickly. Which Izuku basically runs, back, basically turns around and runs, which some of the soldiers are thinking he's abandoning, but basically Orochi and Nobunaga know that he's not. So, when Izuku turns around, he basically gets in a crouch position with his blade basically in reverse grip, basically his hand on the ground, as he's focusing basically some of the rest, a little bit of godly energy, power he has in him into his body as he just runs forward, basically. He then, basically, when he gets to the edge of the sea, because it would be, near the shore, he would then jump and then basically all of a sudden transform into a crow, which some of the soldiers are shocked and get distracted, which one of them says, stay focused, men! Aim for the harpies, not for the crows! Well, not for the crows, basically. As, they basically finish trying to shoot down the harpies. The Chimera basically is also joining them already, but now it's basically going towards the, not the Chimera. The Chimera is going towards the, basically, Leviathan. So, Izuku basically, smashes himself right through one of the harpies, killing it, basically then transforming back into his normal form, which has shroud basically of power still over him, and immediately gone in a flash, basically, both of trail of lightning going towards one of the harpies as he kills it, then going to another. Basically, this is basically going on for a couple minutes of him just, jumping to each one. This is basically eat up a lot of his power and stamina, which basically Nobunaga says it looks like Lord Raijin basically gave him a power and a blessing. Which basically Orochi would just grin and be like, well, this boy basically has pushed himself. Never ceases to amaze me. So, Nobunaga like, yes. Then he takes out an arrow, basically shoots down basically a harpy that was going to go towards basically the village. He was like, hopefully he can defeat the Hydra. If not, then you'll have to transform and try to face it. Lady Orochi, which she'll nod. So, Zuko basically getting closer to Hydra, as then he just, jumped on, kind of landed on a harpy's head. Basically stabbed basically sword through the harpy, jumps off it, basically kicks another harpy, and then also sliced it. Jumped to another one, basically, with lightning. And so, he then hears the roar of the Chimera in pain as he looks, and he basically sees the Chimera get basically thrown by oh my god, a brain fart happened. Okay, the Hydra, and then he goes like, we have to end this now. The only way for basically the Hydra to be defeated by, as then he screams, if basically he lands on two harpies like, Chimera, try to get it over on that side. Heck, even use fire on it. So I can try to get it onto its underbelly. Which the Chimera would get out of the water and basically all of a sudden, shoot out flames, flames would be shot off over his body, making its wings basically, now dry, and saying, yes, yes, my lord, and flies upwards and, shoots fire at it, its head's basically making it, be covered in fire, but then while the Hydra is being distracted and can't see, the Chimera swoops around basically and, basically not push, but bites, tries to basically gets his claws into it, and, onto its back, and then lifting it up somehow, basically with all its strength, and then throwing it to basically its side, as the Hydra basically will land on its side and roll. As they say, Zuko basically, would jump onto basically another harpy, killing a few more. Basically, all of a sudden, basically, will land on basically two more, as he lifts up his hand, as all of a sudden, the ground is starting to shake around the Hydra, as the Hydra technically is on its, basically its back. As then all of a sudden, multiple skeleton, basically bones, are being lifted up the Hydra off of the ground. As Izuku basically then jumps, basically doing a front flip over, as then all of a sudden, a basically storm happens, and basically a lightning bolt hits his basically sword, as it gets covered in lightning, destroying a lot of the harpies, or well, killing most of them. As basically one of the heads of the Hydra sees Izuku, as he says, "This ends now, Hydra!" As well, what he does is he plunges. Well, he basically dives down towards the Hydra, as the Hydra tries to shoot a fireball at Izuku, as then the basically Chimera shoots out its own fireball, hitting the Hydra. As before the Hydra can do anything else, Izuku basically plunges his sword into the Hydra's heart, electrocuting, and it's basically well everything in it because of the lightning on it. As it basically screams in pain, it basically turns into golden dust. As what's left there is the Hydra's hide, fang, and basically vile poison. But she goes, "It's done." As he basically drops to a knee, he's just panting. As he tries to get up, but he can't. As the Chimera basically picks up Izuku's loot along with Char, and basically as the Chimera puts Izuku on his back and flies away while the bones were basically fallen. Which is kind of shocked basically, Nobunaga and Orochi, as Izuku basically drifts off to sleep due to basically him being exhausted. So, what will happen is simple. Izuku will wake up 3 hours afterwards, basically, as he would groan in pain, as one of the soldiers be like, "He's awake! Get Lord Nobunaga and Lady Orochi!" Which he's like, "How long have I been out for?" Which the soldier will say, 3 hours. He was like, "So it's morning." Which he will nod. So, basically, Nobunaga and basically Lady Orochi would come, as Lady Orochi would have food for Izuku. Orochi would have food for Izuku. She will say, "You must be hungry. Here." Which Izuku's kind of hesitant, which basically she goes, "Smart, but don't worry, it's not poison." So he goes, "Thank you for the food." And he starts eating. So basically, while Izuku's eating, basically they're gonna wait till he's done to talk to him. As basically, after he finishes, he puts it to the side and bows to her, be like, "Thank you for your hospitality, Lady Orochi." She goes, "It is my pleasure after what you've done. Thank you for killing the Hydra and the Harpies. It was no problem." Basically, Nobunaga basically says, "Now, since you helped us out, basically by the request of Lady Orochi and Lady Amaterasu, your rewards are need to be given to you." As Nobunaga will be like, "I am the first one to give you this." As he holds up a katana, which Izuku was like, I don't know what to say." He goes, "Your sword basically, was badly damaged due to the lightning. Even though it might have come from the underworld, basically other godly powers basically imbued into it cannot handle." He goes, "Yeah, I was lucky it was spur of the moment." Which basically Nobunaga would nod. Which he goes, "So I will give you my blade." Which he's like, "Wait, what?" He goes, "Yes, it's my blade. The one I died with. I want you to have it. It's been yearning to basically go into battle with someone." Which he was like, I can't do it. It was Lord Nobunaga. Well, Nobunaga was like, "I beg you, Crow, please. It'll be an honor for it to be wielded and passed down to you." Which Izuku would be like, I accept. So he takes the sword and basically bow to him, as Nobunaga would bow to basically Izuku. As Orochi would be like, "Well, just know this. I also imbued it with all my elements I can do, especially my poison. You have to be careful with it, but it's always on command." I'm only talking about my poison. Basically, you have to be careful because you don't want to basically hurt yourself with it. Which Izuku would nod slowly. Was like, thank you, then. Well, thank you, Lady Orochi. She goes, I'm not done. I need to give you my basically thank you gifts. Which basically Orochi would actually snap her fingers as basically some soldiers were bringing in basically 3 boxes. Which he's just blinking. He goes, I don't know what to say. She goes, just don't worry about it. These are basically some ancient things. Well, some ancient basically items that basically are around here. Basically the kitsunes make. And some basically from warriors that have basically died due to basically, well, trying to kill me before Susanoo did. And basically I came back years later. Which he's like, he just nods. Basically, he opens the first box, and it's a mask of a fox. He goes, this is made out of kitsune wood. Well, basically near the forest, which basically, it's very special, and basically have properties that only kitsunes will probably use. Which is like, what does that mean? What does that mean, basically? He goes, well, grants you basically the ability to use illusions and to use kitsune fire. But they also imbue you, since you're the crow, to access your supernatural abilities during the daytime, if needed. He goes, this will help me out a lot, thanks. He basically would take the mask out, well, take the box and move to the side. He then brings out the second one. Basically, what I have is basically not talismans, but basically, well, a whistle. Which is a whistle in the shape of a fox. Because, yes, this will basically bring out a personal, basically, fox that basically has been assigned to you. This basically kitsune will basically kind of be like your subordinate, / servant, / whatever you need it to be. She makes it even be your girlfriend if needed. Which his face will get a little bit red and he goes, I would basically not like to treat as a servant, but like a friend and a comrade, comrade. Which basically Hiroshi would just chuckle. He goes like, I'm only teasing you, boy. You should have more confidence in yourself. Which basically would move that box to the side. And basically, the third box he would take and open it up, which was slightly a little bit bigger. He goes, wait, is this some armor? You don't have much. Which I contacted Lady Matarasu and basically said Raijin's basically having you basically get something unique to you. And basically your spoils of war were basically gathered by the soldiers, and Raijin basically is very happy and pleased that basically these will basically work for it. Which he's like, I see. So this armor, he was like, it's made from my scales and the armor that was laying around here. We did have some forgers in the Kitsune basically village, and basically some here that were willing to basically make this for you. It didn't take long, since we had a lot of hands and very fine craftsmanship given. Heck, even basically a god of the forge even came down and helped. Which his eyes widened, he was like, from the Japanese pantheon. Huh. Forger. Which you will not. Give me a minute. So, basically, this armor, basically what he looks at, the armor basically doesn't look like it will restrict his movements, but it will go underneath his clothing. It's like chainmail armor, but kind of basically weaving into basically a fabric. So, basically asked, so how much could it take? Which basically she will say, well, my scales were melted down along with the other metals, and basically they were beaded into basically metal that was that basically were turned to twine, or string, weaving into basically other basically fabric, that then they made basically into basically this material here. Into, well, as you can see, it looks like basically regular clothing in the modern day, so we would basically have access to it always and don't have to worry about it. but it also basically was imbued with basically magic. So it basically be a little more durable. Kitchen magic. And basically some runes that were added into it. Which he's like, I see. Even though I'll be probably able to regenerate. My supernatural abilities, like you say, only work at night, so yeah, this will be needed. And basically he basically fully looks at it. Basically it's the shirt, and, basically just a shirt, but it's a, long sleeve. Well, it's a long that basically somehow can go short. It's like, does it change during basically the seasons? Which she'll not. And basically says, it also basically will change basically on what you need at the time. It was like, huh, I see. So after basically he puts the box, he basically will then, see his jacket to the side, he will grab it, put basically each item into basically a pocket of it. Basically, will get up and basically bow to them. And he takes the sword Nobunaga gave him. He's like, I thank you both for these gifts. Which basically they would get up and basically bow to him, saying, thank you, Crow, for helping us. Which basically Orochi would be like, you may want to watch out for basically some gods of the other pantheons, like Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. He'll want to fight you. And if he does like you, basically, he'll may even basically train you, basically, at least in how to use a bow staff. Heck, may even give you basically a copy of his bow staff. Which Izuku would just kind of look at her and blink. He was like, oh, that'll be something. Which Nobunaga would be like, yes. And, we do not know if any other god was watching, besides the Japanese pantheon, but if they were, they know your resistance now. So be careful. Some gods may try to kill you due to you being the crow, out of fear, which he would not. So he would get, out of the tent and call basically a roach with basically the whistle, automatic whistle, and basically roach will appear and basically come up to Izuku and basically nuzzle, the face in, basically the horse would nuzzle basically its face into Izuku. Was like, sorry to keep you worried about me, Roach. I had to take a little nap. Basically, you'll look around and be like, where's the Chimera? Basically, Orochi basically will come out of the tent saying, the Chimera left as soon as you were in safety. It's like, and Char? Basically, Char will land on basically Izuku's shoulder and be like, right here. It's like, alright. He gets on basically Roach and be like, well, see, hopefully we'll meet again. Basically, Orochi will be like, you are welcome to this forest anytime. And Nobunaga may be even willing to help you, basically have to fight with the sword. His sword if needed. Which he will not, and basically he rides off. Which Orochi was saying, that boy's gonna basically do a lot of things. A lot of great things to, for his allies. And a lot of horrible things to his enemies. Which basically Nobunaga says, that boy will be a true monster. That not even the world or the god, not this world nor the gods will ever see. Hades choose a fine boy to raise. Which they will, basically she will not. So, Izuku will get back home. Basically, Eri will be like, basically say, Mr. Izuku, what happened to you? He's like, sorry, late night. Had to take a nap. He's like, I'm just glad you're okay, which basically, Inko will come over and be like, is everything alright? Are you fine? Did you get hurt? He's like, Mom, I'm fine. Nothing bad, I just got exhausted. Which, basically, Hades would go over to him and be like, I heard what you've done. It was a fine job, son. Which Persephone would not be like, take on the Hydra and many harpies all at once. Not many people could do that. Which, Inko would be like, wait, you took on the Hydra? He goes, yeah, and it looked different. Which, basically, Hades was, how different? He goes, in the eyes. It seemed like there was a glow to them. Not the normal one that basically you told me about. like it was being, well, controlled or summoned. Which, well, Hades would think about it and be like, that ain't good. Which Izuku would not be like, well, I also got Nobunaga's sword, basically a Kitsune mask that basically allowed me to use my supernatural powers, a summoning for a Kitsune, and basically, as he basically shows basically the armor that he has, but it's like, clothing. Which basically Hades would actually notice, be like, huh, so it's an armor that you can wear basically underneath your clothing, as the crow or normal basically civilian clothing, but also it would turn into actual armor if needed. Which he was like, huh? They only told me basically to change what I need at the time. I see what they meant, what she meant. Which basically he would shock him and was like, oh, Raijin has also delivered basically his gift to you. Which he would go over to it, and basically it's not a sword. It's basically a spear. Which he basically looks at him like, this is going to be very useful for me to use. If I basically can't fight someone up close and personal, and I don't have any bullets on me, or don't want to use my guns, or my bow and arrows. Which basically Hades would basically chuckle, and, well, basically Izuku would only have to basically he just puts it near his jacket, and then all of a sudden, the spear is gone. Which Ares like, that is cool. But that is cool. Which Persephone would just chuckle at that. So, Izuku would be like, well, I technically need to get some sleep. So yeah, he basically, goes over and basically says goodnight to Eri, his mom, and basically, Persephone and Hades. So when he leaves, basically Persephone be like, do you think any of the gods from basically the Greek pantheon saw him? Which basically was like the most likely one would have been basically Hermes. Which she's basically Persephone's kind of worried. Which he goes, I do not think Hermes will basically say anything since he does not know who it is. So you don't have to worry, my beloved wife. Which basically Inko like, I just hope you're right. And that's where we leave it off, everyone. Hope you guys like this What If. Have a nice day, night, wherever you are, and bye, everyone.